Hey everybody, it is Saturday morning about 11:20 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I'm going to take a look at the chart for ARNA Pharmaceuticals. Before I do, I just need to remind you that the website that you see here and this video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research, and please make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look at the chart for ARNA Pharmaceuticals, ticker ARNA. People will say that you're wasting your time. A lot of people will say you're wasting your time trying to get a technical analysis of a biotech, and I can understand where that comes from, because biotechs often live and die by binary events that the chart really cannot predict. But still, even within the context of those binary events, you often see things that behave sort of as one would expect. But ARNA is now largely out of that binary event speculative condition, because they got a product on the market that could very well end up being a very large seller. So basically, I want to show you something that I saw that was really interesting in this chart, and I'm going to try to make this as brief as I can. By the way, if you're looking at this and you're saying a close of 596, what's that all about? Well, I'm using a little bit different candlestick here. If we go to traditional candlesticks right here, this is what we get. Okay, and it's fine. It works great. But if you go to what's called the Heiken Ashi candlestick, it is a different calculation from of where the candlesticks begin and end. And watch, when I click this on, suddenly the trending will become much more evident. So I'm going to leave those on for now. The close on Friday was 6. But basically, ARNA was up around the 8s, broke underneath 750, and then started this long trek down that lasted about 3 months, maybe a little more than 3 months. And boy, was that ugly. The selling never seemed to stop. Most of the action during that downward trend took place in a channel. There was one remarkable spot where the selling accelerated and even got underneath this support line in the channel. And I made mention, I think, in the Yahoo board, that a lot of times when that happens, that's a sign of capitulation. In other words, things, it's selling off, it's going down, but finally there reaches a point where even the most stalwart longs are tempted to cash it in, say, I'm cutting my losses, I'm sick of this, I'm going someplace else. And that's usually when you should buy. But so you see it broke down under this channel, came up, kind of followed that channel line for a while, rallied back into it, came down for one more back test of that channel line, and then that's when it started back up. Now, you may be saying, yeah, well, it started back up, and the news came out right about that time about the rest of the world agreement with Eisai. Sure, I know, and it's hard to subtract that out of the equation. But just the same, prior to that, we had a bottom and then a retest of that level, and I think that was rightly identified as a double bottom. And once that level of this height that marked the left side and the right side of that double bottom, once that got overtaken, we were up. Now, keep this in mind. Let's move ahead on a 30-minute chart. Tell you what, we can even do it on a 15. Give you a little bit better look. So, ARNA rallies back up to just under 8 and starts to sell back down again, with most of the action taking place between lines that mark a resistance and a support channel up until Monday of this past week, when it broke down underneath this support channel and then rallied back up into this pattern and spent pretty much the rest of the week, with the exception of one additional little dip under this line on Wednesday, came down, back tested this channel line again, then started to show some signs of a rally. That's not unlike what happened back in the fall, summer and fall of last year. If we move in on a 5-minute chart, I'm going to show you something that is really, really interesting. And then I'm going to make a few other statements, and then we'll be done with this, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. The first time we got down to 575, you can see there was a very small inverted head and shoulders that formed right here. Now, you could also say there was a larger inverted head and shoulders, but it did not work its magic. That larger pattern would have been here. Okay, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, started to rally. I thought at that point that might be when we start to head back up, but instead we go sideways. Now, the last 3 days of trading, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, are what I think are really interesting from a technical standpoint, because what I'm seeing here is an inverted head and shoulders right here inside this small oval. I'm seeing a larger inverted head and shoulders right here, which, by the way, got a little, matter of fact, both of these got a little bit deeper of a back test of the support line than what you would normally expect. Right here, for example, this would be the neckline to this inverted shape right here, and got down below it a little bit, but then rallied back. Then we've got an even potentially larger inverted head and shoulders that has not broken out, so it's nothing yet until it breaks out. Here would be the left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and we ended the day right at about, this says 599. I think it was actually 6. Well, 599 doesn't make any difference really. And here's a couple things to watch out for. We're not out of the woods. If this is a double bottom, then the double bottom would be confirmed, I would say, with a move above a 620 that is a significant move. If this inverted head and shoulders pattern behaves as a inverted head and shoulders pattern does, then upon breaking out over, call it 608, with good volume, we should be looking at a move to the very low 640s. However, there is a resistance line up here that we've got to deal with. And what is that? Well, that is our descending resistance line in our channel. Okay? Additionally, we've got a purple line right here that we will also have to get over. And what is that? That is what I am most interested in, because this is looking something like a large inverted head and shoulders pattern where we have dipped underneath that neckline. If this pattern were to pan out, then that is where I'm getting my target of the mid-10s if we can get back over this neckline and clear 8. 8 is not going to be easy to get over. Now this line may or may not make sense. All that is we know we've got resistance right here. We have two times where ARNA reached this trend line and got turned back. And all I've done is I've taken what is really, once I adjust that line a little bit, taken a parallel line and I've put it underneath this previous low back in November with the idea that perhaps we come back and we form a parallel channel and head up. That's highly speculative. Frankly, all of this is speculative. Finally, just one more thing. As you look at a daily chart, one thing you'll notice is every time we have selling and we start to turn up, you will see that there is a decrease, with the exception of right here. There is a decrease in the action as the downward momentum starts to slow and then begins to turn positive. Maybe we saw some of that additionally on this daily Heiken Ashi candlestick chart on Friday. And just one more thing I want to show you. If we take a look at our RSI indicators, right here, that is the RSI 14. I'm going to leave this up here. And also we're going to add another indicator, which is the RSI Wilders variant. You can see that the Wilders variant is crossing up right now with the strength on Friday. And you can see that the RSI 14 actually got down to a low of under 16 on Thursday and is about ready to cross over. Now, ignoring the Wilders just for a second and looking just at the RSI 14 and expanding this chart out for a bit, you can see that back in November, the RSI was about 12. And before we started the leg up to 8, the RSI was 17. So the RSI of just under 16, which was the low point on Thursday of the RSI 14, marks the lowest the RSI has been since the November lows. Just wanted to throw that out there. And then one last thing, looking now at a regular candlestick chart and having added the 200-day moving average, simple moving average right here, the red line, and the 50-day simple moving average. If, or shall I say when, I'll say if, just to be safe, if we bounce up out of this channel that we've been in, and if this move down to the 575 area earlier in the week, and then the revisitation or revisiting that 575 area on Thursday, if that is putting in a bottom, and if our little inverted head and shoulders patterns do their trick, and that all adds up to reversing up out of this channel, then in all likelihood we will see that 50-day move up through the 200-day moving average. Is there a bearish possibility in this chart? Yes, there is. And the bearish possibility, which I feel like I should be pointing out as well, is that we have 575 support, and then we have our a descending resistance line right here that on Monday will be at about 605, and it is possible, but I don't think where we are in the chart, probably not very likely. But if we were to take 575 out, then we would have a target of about 530 based upon what's going on inside this consolidation. But I actually would feel more bearish about that possibility if all of this action had taken place after a breakout from are from this channel. In other words, if we'd moved up out of this channel, then gone sideways, then I might think, well, this is a setup for a back test of broken channel resistance to test and see if this line is turned over to support. Instead, we're seeing this happen after an accelerated spell of selling, and that just makes me feel more bullish about where we are right now. So guys, that's the video I promised you. I should have this up and at you by about noon. And please take everything I say with a grain of salt. If you believe in this kind of analysis, that's great. If you don't, ignore it. I believe the fundamentals with ARNA Pharmaceuticals are strong enough to where you probably could ignore the chart and just say, hey, I'm going to invest here in the fives, and I'm going to come back to it in 3 or 4 or 5 years and see what's happened. I think with what they've got in the pipeline and with what they have already on the market with additional indications for lorcaserin being tested and being set up for testing as we speak, it just fundamentally looks like an almost no-brainer. But there's no such thing as a sure thing, so do your due diligence. Thanks for watching.